Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for another Tuesday Cruiser Chat. Nothing really exciting or on the docket tonight, just whatever you guys want to chat about. Trying to think. The race team moved just about everything out of the other half of the building last weekend. So we'll be getting more space, hopefully by the time I get back from Portugal. So that'll be nice. We'll have more space, more room to get cruisers in, and space to add a third guy. So hopefully we can get the backlog worked down. The FJ40 that's getting the 3FE swap, I got that fired up yesterday for the first time, which was exciting because now I know the harness that I built for it actually works. It's still got, some detail work and fine tuning to do, but it is running. I don't have everything completely wired, but it was far enough along yesterday that I could try to start it. So I did because I wanted to see what it would do. But yeah, that's pretty much all that's going on news-wise at the shop. Just trying to hustle out a couple of jobs before I leave to go out of town. Danny will still be at the shop next week, but I'll be in Portugal, so there won't be a live chat next week either. I'll be back the following week, which I don't know what the date is, maybe like the 23rd. And yeah, Dave, nope, we leave, we fly out like Saturday evening. And then I think we land in Portugal Sunday morning. And then we'll be back the following Sunday. So chat will resume like the 23rd. Yeah, and thank you for your contribution to the Shady 80 Cruiser Fund. Once the other side's cleared out, I'm going to pull the Shady 80 in to maybe give me more motivation to work on it. I had to order a bunch of parts from Cruiser Brothers, so I threw the knuckle rebuild kit on that order. So I should have the knuckle kit for it tomorrow. And then I got to decide what I'm going to work on next. Although it'll probably be a bit because we're in Portugal next week. And then I stupidly signed up for a 5K trail run this Saturday or Sunday after we get back. So I'm sure I'm not going to want to do anything the following weekend either. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, it's amazing how often you get in there and the wheel bearing nuts are loose. Probably 50% of the time that we go in to do knuckles or wheel bearings, like the outside nut is completely finger tight. But yeah, we're just, I'm whooped. We've been prepping for the trip next week, getting everything ready for dog sitting and house sitting and all that jazz while we're gone because our dogs don't like staying other places. We got to find folks to come here and stay at the house so the dogs don't go crazy. So that's occupied my last couple of days. That and just getting last minute stuff together. Yeah, sometimes Molly will push through. It'll come up the spindle. It'll track up the spindle. The Burfield will feed it through into the wheel bearings. Usually you don't get much. How many breathers are there for when I do breather extensions? On your 80, really there's just the two. There's the front and rear axle. The transfer case and transmission both vent up into the transfill dipstick, which is already pretty high. I mean, I guess you could disconnect them from there and run them a bit higher, but you're not going to gain much. So really, it's just the two axles. I've never tried putting later year rotors and calipers on a 91, 92. I would have assumed they were the same as the later 80 calipers and rotors, but I've never paid that much attention to them. I'm trying to remember. We hardly get any 91, 92s through the shop. I can't think of anything glaringly different from looking at them. I didn't think about the 15 versus 16-inch wheel. Although some 15-inch wheels will fit on them. I've got 15-inch wheels on my 4Runner, and it's got 80 series axles under it, and I think they're 93. At least the rear is, because the rear is semi-float or full float. Although it's weird, the truck they came out of had a 3FE, but it had a full float rear axle with disc brakes. So who knows? But yeah, I didn't think about the wheels being a different size. Good call, Dave. I don't use any undercoat. Undercoat is the devil. It just traps moisture, traps dirt, traps rust. It's an all-around bad idea. Fluid film, which is a good oily film, that stuff works phenomenal, and it'll soak into cracks and crevices and seal things up. Most of what we do, like when we're patching something up, is we just, get rid of the rust, clean up the frame, and then, use a good etching primer and, just spray paint. Yeah, if you're just using paint, I just use, Rust-Oleum, Krylon, whatever. Spray paint's nice because it's thin enough. If something does rust behind it, it flakes, and you can tell that there's a problem, instead of it getting hidden. On good call, other Dave, with the needing to change the dust shields. Because, if you're going bigger rotors, you'll need the bigger cutouts for the bigger calipers and the bigger diameter. All the things that I never pay attention to because we just call an order by the year. And hopefully the outside noise isn't bad. I've got the back door open because it's nice out and the dogs are going in and out. That way I don't have to keep getting up and letting the dogs in and out. And I guess now they're just going to crash on the floor behind me. Making Shady 80 stickers would require me to have artistic skills. It took me forever to get actual OTRAM stickers done because I had to actually find a graphics person to do the drawing and the logo and everything for me. I guess I could ask her to do Shady 80 stickers too. I just have no idea what I would do. It would just be a really crappy looking Land Cruiser on a sticker. At least until it gets better. Yeah, my art is not good enough to go up on the fridge. Although I did take some cool nature photographs, and those are framed on the wall here. But yeah, I should crowdsource Shady80 artwork. Dave's asking, is the factory gasket for the throttle body necessary? Is Permatex okay? I would not Permatex that. There's a vacuum passage there that you could get Schmoot in. The factory gasket is like stamped sheet metal, and it's usually safe to reuse. We've reused them a couple of times with no ill effects. So I would either get a new one or reuse the old one. I wouldn't try permatexing it. We actually do sell the crank holding tool. They're on our website under, I think, 1FZ crank holding tool. And there's either one or two of them left. I need to run another batch, but I probably won't put that order in until I get back from Portugal. But there's either one or two left, and the inventory on the website's correct because I just double checked it this morning because I didn't want them to be wrong while I was out of town. Doh. Yeah, it's sad. I've got like the whole Adobe Creative Cloud suite thing. I got it for doing video editing, but I do not have the artistic skills to crank anything out of it. Any recommendations on radiators other than OEM? What generation truck? I'm guessing 80 series. 80 series, either Denso or Koyo Rad are fine. CSF isn't horrible, but I prefer the Denso or the Koyo Rads. Yeah, for a 96, either Denso or Koyo Rad will be fine. We use them all the time without an issue. Sometimes if I need them faster, I'll get the OEMs, but the OEMs are a lot more expensive. And to Jamie, I'm assuming you're talking about the full floating axle where it goes onto the hub. We usually gasket them just because that's the right way to do it, and we always have the gaskets in stock. But I've seen a ton of them come through with Permatex sealing them with no leaks. So Permatex should be fine. It makes them a bit harder to get back apart later on, especially if you get it in the cone washers. But as long as everything's clean and oil-free before you seal it, you should be okay. Yeah, the gaskets are for those are almost the same as the front hub gaskets, or the front drive flange gaskets. And whenever we get knuckle kits, there's always like double sets in there, so we save all the extras just in case we have to like pull drive flanges or pull axle flanges. I think we actually may be running low on them. I may have to order some soon. And the weather outside here today is beautiful. Oh, and I just realized all my Home Depot junk is still on the bench behind me. Pay no attention to my mess on the bench. To Dave, I don't know of a rubbery version for those drive flange gaskets. You could use, trying to think of, it's like Permatex Hylamar, something like that. It's a gasket dressing that makes them release again. It's like polyurethane gasket dressing. That might help with the rip scrape paper ones, but I've never tried using it for that. We use it on carb gaskets because it's fuel proof, and it makes it so you can reuse the carb gaskets. I've heard of Turf and Surf, and it looks like a super cool event, but that would require me getting all the way across the country to California. So far, the furthest west I've been in the U.S. is Arizona. We've only seen a few of the diesel 80 series engines come through the shop, like few as in 2 or 3. They all seem really awesome. I would caution you to only import through a really reputable importer. We see a lot of crap come through, especially from South America. So just be really careful on who you're getting it from. And the Devil Dog, you got to take the intake boot and the throttle body off to get the valve cover off. The throttle body hangs just enough over the valve cover that you can't get it out from underneath of it. And Irving just bought a 94 LC. Notice the throttle is not as responsive when the car has not been warmed up. It could be a number of things. And it's hard to say without actually going through it and testing it. It could be slow oxygen sensors that they're not warming up and coming online quickly. It could also be the coolant temp sensor. It'll keep the truck running rich. If it thinks it's colder than it actually is, it'll richen up the truck and it'll make it sluggish. So coolant temp sensor would probably be my first guess, but without actually checking it, it's just a guess. And to Dave, no, I did not give the blue Bandeirante back yet. I've got to make exhaust for it. We're doing stainless exhaust on it because the exhaust is butchered. I just need to get a lift freed up in order to get it in and actually build the exhaust. And I'm running way behind on that one. Yeah, I really need to start looking for a third guy when we get back from vacation. We're booked out way too far right now. Yeah, we've got a couple of trucks out, but I think we've still got like 20 cruisers at the shop. P0171, I believe, is lean code. Let me look that up real quick. Yeah, P0171 lean code. Most common is probably an oxygen sensor, but it could also be vacuum leaks or a clogged up injector. I mean, it could be other things too, but oxygen sensor, vacuum leak, clogged injector would be the first things I would check. And Stephen Leach, depends on the vehicle and where it came from, like 80 series, 100 series, are like $120 for comprehensive. 40 and 60 series are about 150, and the imported stuff is more just because there's more to go over on them that could be butchered. Yeah, 96 LX 450 would just be 120. We've got a decent checklist that we go through on those, and we see so many 80 series as we can roll through the checklist pretty quick. Worn struts, you're gonna bounciness would be the biggest, bouncing suspension, bottoming out. They can do choppy tire wear. Yeah. Poor handling and increased tire wear. That's a much more succinct way of putting it. Yeah, I've never seen a 1FZ speedy sleeve for fixing the rear main seal grooves. It's been a couple years since I looked one up, but yeah, the last time I looked for one, there wasn't one available. You could either set the seal a hair deeper or a hair shallower to try to miss the groove. But yeah, I don't know of a speedy sleeve for them. And to Tulsa Mike, going rate to do the pesky heater hose. I think we charge 2 hours, so like 240 plus coolant. So depending on which coolant you've got in it, it changes a little bit. So all in all, probably 260, 270. I luckily enough haven't run into a 80 series crankshaft that had grooves in it. I think I've only ever had to do maybe 4 or 5 rear main seals on 1FZs. It's really rare that we actually go in and do them. Yeah, we've got pesky heater hose down to a science. That and changing the fuel filter on the 1FZ. I think Crash can do those really speedy. It may take me a while to get the quote request back to you. We are super slammed this week trying to get a couple of trucks out before I leave for vacation on Saturday. And I'll be gone all of next week. And I am unfortunately the only one at the shop that writes the estimates. So it may take me a couple of weeks to get back to you with a request for quote, but I'll get it back to you as quickly as I can. Yeah, rear main seal leak falls under, you can put a whole lot of oil in the engine for what it costs to change it. Yeah, normally we just see little drips and nobody really cares enough to change them. Being quoted 1,800 for upper control arm replacement, lower ball joint replacement, shock strut assembly, front and rear, tie rod ends, inner tie rod ends, both sides. Depends on what truck. I'm guessing 100 series. And it also, I guess, depends on what quality of parts they're using, but that doesn't seem horrible. Yeah, I've never... Okay. OEM quality or OEM, because there's also a difference there. Because yeah, it using all factory parts that might even seem a bit on the low side. It's been forever since I priced all of that out on 100 series. Gotcha. You've got to be careful when they talk about warranty, because a lot of really, really low quality parts have lifetime warranties. And they have lifetime warranties because they're such crappy low quality parts. They cost absolutely nothing for the manufacturer to replace. So it also depends on if they're covering labor with that warranty. You got to watch for that, because you might have a shock that's lifetime warranty, but if it blows out a couple of times a year and you've got to pay the labor to get it swapped every time, that can be more expensive than just buying a factory shock. Like, the factory shocks are really cheap. The control arms are not. But yeah, yeah, like the shocks from the factory are really cheap. For the tie rod ends, I'd either get factory Toyota or try to get like 3.5 brand, which are also Japanese and high quality. I would stay away from like, Moog or Chassis Saver or any of the house brands for stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know JP Steel. Yeah, it's real easy to find crappy parts with good warranties. Where like Toyota parts, I think they're a year warranty. Stuff like that, they're a year warranty, but they're going to last forever. So you can't always judge by the warranty. Shady 80 Fund is ever so slowly coming along. I don't know if Dave is still on here, but Dave made a contribution last week, which was super awesome. Now I get JP Steel. Japanese steel, yes. We see pinion seals go bad on the 80s every now and then. Usually it's the pinion bearing getting loose and letting the pinion flange waller around that wipes out the seal. Yeah, with age, all of them go bad eventually. And what's the first modification I would make to an 80 series? It's a really boring one, but I would go through and change all the fluids because it seems like nobody ever changes the fluids on them. After that, probably mild suspension lift, but that's just my take. There is no way in hell that I would put a Cardone steering rack in anything. Cardone stands, they just ran out of letters for spelling Cardone. They are the biggest pile of crap parts ever to leave a third world country. Like, we will only put factory steering racks in. The reconditioned stuff, the couple of times I've had to deal with them. You get 2 or 3 of them that are just absolute garbage and leak more than what you took out. So yeah, OEM only as far as I'm concerned, especially on something that's a pain to get out like the 100 series steering rack. Oh, and Shady 80 is the shop truck that I bought very, very cheaply for a very good reason. And we're gonna build it up as the shop wheeling truck because I haven't had a street legal wheeling truck in forever. People keep asking about when the videos on it are coming out and when it's going to get built. And the build funds for the Shady 80 are lacking for getting parts. We're taking over the other half of our building, so our rent just doubled. So there's not a whole lot of budget for the Shady 80 right now. So I put a donation page on our website. And if folks want to kick in towards parts for the Shady 80, we're going to do like a sponsored by sticker on the back, the side windows, like, you know, so be sponsored by, and list out all the people that have sponsored it. Because I thought that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I've never used a Cardone in a 100 series, but everything I've ever seen from them has just been absolutely terrible. I would not let anything Cardone into my shop. 80 series with 200K, thoughts on changing or flushing the transmission fluid? We just do drain and fills. I've always read about sketchy things happening when you flush them, you know, like running dirt through the valve body, things like that. So we just do drain and fills. And yeah, we just do drain and fills because it seems to be the much safer option. And yes, I'm all about Shady 80 stickers. Somebody just needs to come up with super awesome artwork for it because that person is not me. On window parts, what are the rubber parts called? One is channels, one is wipers. I've always called them window runs. And I don't know if that's the proper name for them. I mean, people call them channels. The wiper's usually the one that goes along the top edge of the door. We've always called the ones that go in the tracks the runs. And Atticus is a blue heeler, and we're guessing corgi mix. He's got really short legs that turn out like a corgi. We're not entirely certain on his pedigree. He is a very awesome dog. Well, him and Trillian. Trillian's the all-black one. Oh, she's over here now. And we're guessing she's Black Lab and Dachshund. Yeah, I wanted a blue heeler. My wife wanted a corgi. We went into the pound and saw him there. And yeah, it was like, yep, this is the dog for us. Yeah, yeah. The Otram stickers with the dog hanging out the window are actually representative of Atticus and Trilly because they come hang out at the shop a lot, especially when the weather hits nicer. He's hobbling around tonight. We went for a long walk last night, and he's got some arthritis and hasn't had his pain pills for the night yet. But yeah, they're super good dogs. Except for when we're going out of town, because Atticus is super sketched out about us leaving. So we've got to have somebody in place to stay here, and they have to be here before we leave, or he goes nuts. He's got really bad separation anxiety. Awesome. Glad the video was useful. People had been asking for it like since we started making videos, and we just don't get a ton of CV shaft replacement trucks through. So it was one of those. It just happened. I actually wasn't doing a CV shaft on that truck, but I had to do an axle seal on it. So I figured it would be a good time to shoot a video on doing the axles. What's the most common series we work on? If you drove by the shop right now, you would think 40, because there's quite a few of them out there. The most common is probably the 80 series. I think we've got 11 of them at the shop right now. We do a ton of 80 series, a bunch of 100 series, and then, a smattering of 40, 60, 62, 200 series. We have a lot of Daily Driver 80 series. And the customers we've got that daily drive them treat them like they are a $1 million machine. They get super babied. Like I've got one customer with a super awesome 80 series. He Ubers when it snows because he doesn't want to get salt on it. Yeah, front diff on 100 is not particularly fun to do on the ground. I've done it a couple of times, and it's not fun. It's much easier on the lift. Yeah, the 80 series, to me, it's like the best of both worlds because you can drive it on the street. It's super streetable, but then they will go do crazy things out in the woods. If everything is factory except for the lower ball joint, that's a pretty good quote. I would see if they can get 3.5 ball joints instead of Dorman. The 3.5s are Japanese and really nice, and you can usually get them from Napa, pretty readily available, and probably for about the same price as Dorman. So yeah, I would give that a shot, but otherwise that doesn't seem bad. Yeah, diff on the ground. Before I moved into the shop, I guess 3 years ago this week, I was mobile and did a lot of Land Cruiser work out of our house just on the driveway. So I've done a lot of repairs on the ground. 80 series transmissions, definitely not fun to do on the ground. Yeah, Napa stocks 3.5. They list it as Ultram, like ALTROM, but when you get them, like a lot of their Ultram stuff is actually 3.5 and reasonably priced. Yeah, I'm lazy now. Like if I can't get it on the lift, a lot of times I just don't do it. I did rod bearings and main bearings on my back on a 2F like a month or two ago, just because I couldn't get it over to the lift, and it was a pain. And it's actually 555 is the brand name. It's like 3 5s in a row with a circle around it is the logo. And I've always heard it pronounced 3.5, but it's actually 555. And that's a really weird name for a chassis parts company, but they make awesome parts. We use them a lot for tie rod ends and ball joints. I'm trying to think. I think that's really all we get that's 3.5 is tie rod ends and ball joints. The terrain tamer stuff seems really nice for tie rod ends as well, but most of the stuff we've seen from them has been for the older trucks. Where to find interior parts for 100 series? For that, I think you're either going to be dealer new or salvage yards. There's a website called car-part.com, and it lets you search like the nationwide database of junkyards, or at least all of them that are hooked up in the database. We use them when we're trying to find, oddball parts. And, it'll list, how far away the junkyard is and, their price. And that might be your best bet. Either that or watch the I Hate Mud classifieds for somebody parting 100 series out. They seem to get parted pretty regularly, like in the Northeast, because the frames rust out of them. But yeah, I don't know that there's any aftermarket source for them. I'm not sure about, because it looked like he said something about like 78 Series 2, and I'm wondering if he's talking about like Land Rover Series 2. Or possibly a diesel cruiser. But I'm not sure. Engine rattle, depending on if it's gas or diesel, could be a bunch of things. On gas engines, like especially like the 2Fs, the most common reason we see them like knocking and rattling at idle is somebody put 3 and 4 spark plug wires on backwards. So they're firing slightly out of order. Beyond that, bearings will make them rattle. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's getting hard to find cruiser stuff in junkyards around here. There's a huge junkyard not too far south of the shop that never really had a bunch of cruiser stuff, but they used to have a bunch of like pickups and forerunners. Like I went through there probably 20 years ago, and they had like 10 solid axle pickups in a row, and I took every one of the front axles. But he just really hasn't replenished it. And the ones that are around us that do have cruiser parts in them, just want insanely high prices. I was looking for like a mini truck power steering box. We'd done a mini truck power steering conversion on a 40 series, using a junkyard box. And that box started leaking, so I went looking for one to replace it. I was just going to get another junkyard box. And they wanted $500 for a used, 30-year-old steering, I guess almost 40-year-old steering box. I ended up just sending it out for rebuild because it was about half the price to get it rebuilt than it was to buy a used one. Yeah, junkyard pricing has gone crazy on a lot of stuff. Sorry, texting with my wife. She's on her way home. Oh, it is Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday tonight. Atticus, are you on the YouTubes? What are we doing? People are watching for you. People are watching you. They're on there. Yeah. Yeah. Ow. You're good puppies. It's almost time. Yeah, they hold their value crazy. I've been looking for an 80 series, to build for forever. And the pricing on them just, we couldn't afford it. Like I couldn't justify, buying a shop truck at $10,000. Cool. I'll catch you later, Dave. And I plan to have a lot of fun in Portugal. Hopefully take pictures of cool Portuguese cruisers, and I'll catch you when I get back. 100 series versus 200 series. We haven't seen a ton of 200 series or LX570s through the shop yet. My gut is they're probably all still going to the dealer for service. The ones that we've had through have been for like upgrades, like, suspension and lockers, snorkel, stuff like that. They seem to be really well built. The 200 series has quite a bit more power over the 100 series. And it may be a little bit early to tell, but they seem to be less rust prone than the 100 series. We're starting to see a lot of frame rust and body rot on the 100 series. And, the couple of 200 and LX570s we've had come through, they still look, factory fresh underneath. And I guess they're 10 years old now. Some of the earlier ones that we're seeing. But they seem to be holding up rust-wise much better. Yeah. So yeah, if it's easier to find LX570s, I would probably say that they're a better option than the 470. Yeah, the Virginia ones we see are starting to get, quite a bit of frame, flaking and surface rust. But the ones we see coming down from like Maryland, Pennsylvania, and points north, we've had a couple that, suspension cross members were getting ready to fall off. Body mounts were rotted loose. Just crazy amounts of rust. And we see 80 series, from the same geographic area with not nearly the rust that the 100 series has. I would think Reno would still be pretty rust free. Maybe they get more rain. I would use fluid film. We've got a couple of customers local that, spray the underside down with fluid film, every year or so. And their trucks look considerably cleaner than the non-fluid film ones, as far as rust and paint flaking. So fluid film really seems to do the job. And I have no idea on changing an oil pan gasket on a 08 Highlander. I don't know that I've ever worked on a Highlander, except for maybe doing spark plugs on one. And that was years ago. Wow, that's crazy that an LX470 is pulling the same price as a 570. I would definitely go for the 570. Yeah, other than the smell, I'm a big fan of fluid film. If I had anything worth protecting, I would fluid film my own stuff. I don't know on the Highlanders. I would assume they're good. But all we do is Land Cruisers. So I never actually see them through for repairs to see what goes wrong on them. And cool. Thanks for tuning in, Christian. Anytime. It wasn't a diss towards Highlanders. We don't see them through the shop. Cool. I'll catch you later, Jerry. Yeah, it's going to be a fun trip. We've been putting off the European part of the plan for too long, so it'll be nice to be able to get back over that way. We've been doing South and Central America for the last couple of years. So Portugal will be a fun change of pace. And I'm trying to think. I would bet that a Highlander oil pan is actually glued on, like the Prius and Camry stuff is. Which generally they don't. I don't see the glued on Toyota oil pans leaking all that often. But if it's easy to get, like if you can actually see the bottom of it, it shouldn't be too horrible to change. And we're about an hour south of Washington, D.C. I guess southwest of Washington, D.C. Out in, the shop's in Bealton, Virginia. But I'm at home in Warrenton right now. It's been a beautiful day out today. I think it got up to 70-something today. Yeah. It's 76 out right now. Yeah. Maybe the Highlander isn't a glue on pan gasket then. Or maybe it's been off before and it didn't get cleaned real well before the sealer went back on. Yeah, usually on the glued on ones, the the Toyota stuff, their factory gasket or gasket sealer, the Foreman Place gasket maker, holds up really, really well. Yeah, I dig Virginia. I've been back and forth to Virginia. Like, we've moved away a couple of times, but always come back. I guess I've been here 25 years off and on. And I just keep ending up back in Virginia. Although retirement plan is Peru or Guatemala. But that's a ways down the line. Oh, and I'm ready for a nap. I don't think I've seen an update from the guy that had the pinging issues. And to using the third row seatbelts as a replacement, I've never looked at them. I've never looked at trying to use them. I would guess they would not be the same length, but I've never actually tried. And thanks for the nice trip, Tulsa Mike. It should be a lot of fun. And yeah, we've got a ton of bird feeders in the backyard. So we've got a ton of cardinals and blue jays, all kinds of birds. So it's always super awesome sounding here. What's my favorite song at the moment? Probably Authority Zero, Painted Windows. It's either that or Contrast Butterfly Defect. Does it only ping? Like, when does it ping? Is it like highway cruising, pulling hard, like going up a hill, or all the time? And have you checked timing? Yeah, I've got really odd taste in music. I think Authority Zero is out of Arizona. They're like a punk ska band. And Contrast is like new metal polka music out of Austria. Both excellent bands, though. But for pinging, I think to take timing out, it's counterclockwise, but I could be wrong. I've always got to hook up the timing light and just screw with the distributor to get it dialed in. But yeah, it if it's pinging under load, the first thing I would check would be the timing and make sure that you've got the jumper jumped in the diagnostics box when you set the timing. If it was just light throttle cruising, I was going to say maybe the EGR wasn't flowing. But if it's under load, my first guess would be timing. Yep, 93 in the little diagnostic box on the firewall. It's E1 and T1, I believe. And when you jumper those, it locks the timing. Otherwise, when you're trying to adjust the timing, the computer tries to counter adjust against you. So when you put it in diagnostic mode, I drop them on the floor. But when you put it in diagnostic mode, it locks the timing so that you can actually set it. And it also holds the RPM lower. And cool. Yeah, I am planning to have an awesome trip. Thanks for all the well wishes, guys. And again, I won't be here next week because I'll be in Portugal. But I'll be back the following Tuesday, which I think is the 23rd. And if it's not the 23rd, it's whatever Tuesday is right around there. But thanks to everybody that tuned in. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe below. If you really dig the channel, check out our Patreon link. And I will catch you guys next time. Have a great day.